In today's business world, change is the only constant, and mastering transformation is the ultimate key to success. Welcome to Shift and Thrive. I'm your host, Natalie Nathanson. Each week, we'll bring you conversations with CEOs who delve into how they successfully drove critical change in their organization. This show is sponsored by Magnitude Consulting, bringing you the thinking power of a growth consultancy and the getting it done power of a full-service B2B marketing agency. Today's guest is a global business leader with a passion for driving transformation and impact. He has served a range of key roles in large enterprises. He's the former CEO for Latin America at the major French multinational bank Société Générale. He was also the former CEO of Nissan Brazil, where he led growth and market expansion during a transformative period for the company. He's also held leadership roles at Renault Nissan Mitsubishi and Jaguar Land Rover. And he is currently at Tata Consultancy Services, where he leads sustainability for Latin America and new business for Brazil, where he resides. He's an impressive man, to say the least. François Dossa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I don't know if I deserve all what you said. That was really, really positive, maybe too positive. Let's see what happens in the interview.
Well, I'm sure it's all well-deserved. Hopefully I did justice to all the pronunciations. But I do want to talk about some of the unique trajectory that you have. I know you've led companies across banking and automotive and now IT consulting with innovation and transformation as recurring themes. And I know one of the standout examples is when you launched a corporate venture fund that brought innovative startups into the fold. So I'd love to start there and maybe ask, can you take us back to the moment, where were you? What were you trying to solve or unlock with the initiative? What was it that you created? And then later I want to talk about some of your lessons learned, but, help give us some of the background.
Yeah, well, that's a nice story because, I was in Brazil. I was the CEO of Nissan Brazil. We just had the Olympic Games, Rio 16, where we were the main sponsor for this. So can you imagine 4 years working like hell? And then it was a success. We launched a global car for the Olympics, the Nissan Kicks, which is today a success in the world. And, I was happy. For me, I had, my job as okay. We are now making a lot of money in Brazil, thanks to the Kicks. The Olympics were a success. I was happy and ready to stay in Brazil for more time. And then I received a phone call from Mr. Carlos Ghosn, the former CEO of the Alliance Renault Nissan Mitsubishi. And he said, François, I'm not sure that you should stay in Brazil anymore. You did everything you had to do. Would you like to become the fourth pillar of innovation in the company? I said, oh my God, what is he talking about? I said, well, I'd like to know first one of the three first pillars to know if I want to be the fourth one. Then he said, it's about electrification, autonomy, connectivity. And the fourth one is innovation. We need to find new technologies that we will not develop ourselves because it's becoming too complex, too difficult. So I want to create a corporate venture capital fund. I want you to be the CEO of this fund. And this is going to be very fun. And, I didn't have time to say yes or no. Suddenly I was alone on the phone and I didn't know what to do. So I called the head of HR, 1 minute after he said, and he told me, oh, I know that you just accepted the offer of Mr. Ghosn. I said, no, I did not. I did not accept. He said, yes, you did. And this is how I discovered that I would become the CEO of Alliance Ventures. So I left Brazil, went back to Europe. I was based in Paris at the beginning, but the fund headquarters was then after in Amsterdam. So we created all the fund in a few months. And then in January 2018, we launched the fund at the CES in Las Vegas. So Mr. Ghosn and myself on stage, 300 journalists. So, for me, it was my glory day. I thought that was important, but I was not. He was important. I was not, but, it gave me the impression that I was an important guy. That was great. And then, we, at the time, we just said, okay, we're going to launch the biggest fund in the industry. It's $1 billion to be invested in startups to help us find the technology that we need for the future of mobility. But at the time, if you ask me, what are you going to do? I had no clue. It was really, the very beginning of all of this. So I started to travel a lot. I've been, of course, to Silicon Valley, as you may imagine, but not only. I've been a lot to China, Beijing, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Shanghai, Hong Kong. I've been to Israel, Tel Aviv, which is a great hub of startups, many places in Europe, India. And, I started to discover that there is another world, which is not the corporate traditional world that I knew before, but this world of startups. And this really changed my life. And I started to think, well, technology is going to save the world. I was at the time very optimistic. And I remember that at the time also there was a movement which was called technology for good. Because with technology you can do good things and you can do bad things. And there was all this movement that I thought, oh, well, this is what is going to prevail. We're going to go tech for good. Nobody will die because we'll have chips in our body. We will, discover all the disease before we got them and we will be good forever and blah, blah, blah. And then, I realized that things are not really like that. But I can tell you that it helped me in a way to meet people, the startuppers, the entrepreneurs that are just amazing. This is not me. I'm a guy of a big corporation, as you said. Société Générale, Nissan, Renault, Jaguar Land Rover, TCS, which is Tata Group. So I was fascinated by these guys, to be an entrepreneur, to have an idea, to go after it, and it doesn't work, and you go to something else. And so I learned a lot, and it has been probably one of my best job in my life, to be the head of Alliance Ventures.
That sounds like an amazing experience and certainly a bit of a whirlwind. I would say, many of our listeners are on the other side of the table. So they are kind of the smaller and kind of innovative tech executives. Can you talk about, how did you find the right innovation? What were you looking for in the technology and the leaders? Share a little bit more.
Yeah, that's very interesting because I tell you, on my side, every time I was meeting someone, like, oh, they're great, I want to invest, you know? And then I realized, no, 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 François, it's not like that. You need to understand what is the technology, what is the team, what is the idea, what problem they want to solve, is it scalable or not? So I started to create an investment thesis, to really understand, okay, first of all, the first task for me has been to define, okay, what am I looking for? If I go to the market and I'll say, you know what, I want technology in connectivity, in autonomy, and in electrification. This is too vast. This is too big. You cannot work like that. So we started to funnel down, our what we call innovation territories. So I came with 31 innovation territories. I started with 480. Can you imagine?
Wow.
And then I said to the market, okay, guys, this is where I'm looking for new technologies. Okay. The second thing is that that's my case. I was not looking for early stage. I wanted to find startups that are in their series A or B, but already have a prototype or kind of a product, maybe one customer. Because, for me, it was easier to understand if this technology could fit in my R&D department, because there is still in the large companies the syndrome of the not invented here. So if it's too far away from what we do or from what we can understand, there's no way you can connect the startup with the large company. It's too difficult. So this is why we decided to work with companies that were in their series A or B. And it worked extremely well. But I can tell you, if you ask me, okay, lesson learned for you, what is the most important thing when you want to select a startup? I would tell you that it is the team. It's about people. It's really about people because, so many people have great ideas, But it's not just having a great idea or great technology or being a genius. It's also bringing together people that can work together, make this thing, really mature. Because it's not just the idea. I was mentioning scalability, but there is also a go-to-market. There is also, all the financial part of it that you need to understand when you do something. So, for me, the best startups are the ones that bring together the best teams where people are really work together. They are complementary. They're not, all the same like clones. No, they're all different. And I spent a lot of time really understanding the teams, always, going to the startups where they work, being with them, have dinner, make some jokes, understand a little bit, the way of being together. And, that's, in Allen's Ventures, we did 15 investments because 1 year after Mr. Gunn was arrested and we had to stop the activity. We invested 150 million. They became $600 million 3 years after. So that was not bad. We could make 3 good investments in startups. They became unicorns. But again, if I want to tell you, how did I do that? Was spending time with the teams. So, and also last thing, sorry, I'm being maybe a little long, but to invest in 15 companies, I took a lot of, I think, 2000. So the funnel is really crazy. You need to look at a lot of companies. So I had a structure that I put in place to help me select the startups. And when there is a doubt, for me, it's no. Don't try to think, oh, but maybe I find something. No. If there is a doubt, okay, you don't go for it. And then at the end, the 15 that we finally invested were really successful, at least for us. And there is also something to finalize is that we wanted to make this investment in startup that could work with us. It's not, a financial investment. It was an investment in a company that could, really fit with what we do and work together. So I was offering the scalability to the startup because, I have big volume. We were at the time at the Alliance producing 10 million cars a year. So this is what I was offering the startup. So we could make a real win-win. But very interestingly, the notion of time is not the same in a startup and in a large company. In large company, we have all the eternity, In startup, you don't have because, time is and money is short. So you need to make action, you need to move. So for these two work well together, for each of the startup I invested, I gave them a champion, was someone of the Alliance for Nissan Mitsubishi that would be fully dedicated to open the doors of the big organization to the startup, because if not, they're lost. It's so big. So they had this person, and this person would receive a bonus only if business would be created between the startup and the Alliance for Nissan Mitsubishi.
Yeah. It's so interesting hearing you talk about it. And I think, the VC world is typically the place where most look. But I think this kind of smart, like strategic partnership and looking as a startup of what are the big corporations looking for and who are the ones that are looking for these kinds of partnerships and getting in at the right time is just an important avenue to be looking at. And then all the different cultural components that you talk about. I'm curious, is there, of the investments that you made, is there one that really stands out to you, either because it had the biggest impact on the organization or just something else that really stands out in your mind looking back now?
No, I don't really like mention one name because why one rather than, but we had kind of different kind of investments. We had, everything that was the new go-to-market. And this is going more digital, more AI. So what was something where you could really accelerate your go-to-market, which is very important in a large company, where everything takes or months or years for something to happen. So accelerating the go-to-market. We had some, not the most fancy one, but they are very important, helping you in a cost reduction. And, this is an industry where cost is very sensitive. If you want to be profitable, you need to reduce your cost. This, when you're boss name is Carlos Ghosn, the cost killer. You need to find good solution, and startup could help you. But then, the one that I most liked are the deep tech
Mm.
companies. How you make a very different chemistry for battery, which make, the range of your battery 600 miles in one charge. That's something that I like. Solid state battery technology, this at the time in 2017, that was something absolutely new. And I said, well, this is an investment that I want to make, even though I knew that it would materialize maybe in 10 years' time. So the deep tech world is something that I felt absolutely fascinated. Why? Also because, I'm not an engineer. So I'm really fascinated by people who have this capability to invent, something, chemistry is absolutely fantastic. It's really, for me, it's science fiction. And the guys are so good at it. And they, so that's also something that I enjoyed a lot. So, no, I don't want to give you one company, but, more some directions. But all of them were very interesting. Uh, of course, we made investment in a startup, but again, I don't want to say the name. It's Chinese startups in autonomy in Guangzhou. And for me, that was fascinating because I remember very well. That's the first time I was doing a test drive in Guangzou in a car with no driver. And, it was in 2017. Today it became, a commodity. But at the time, believe me, that it was not. And, we were on the highway going in the tunnel and going, I was kind of, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I was, nearly dying. And I could see, these guys are so smart. How can you, have with sensors, cameras, lidars, radars, you have everything on the car, and the car could go alone and with no accident. And at the time, I remember very well, Mr. Gunn was saying, our industry is a disaster. A lot of people die in their car, and we're looking for zero fatality. We had the zero emission with the electric car, but we were looking for the zero fatality. We don't kill anybody else. Well, that's good because, the car doesn't drink. The car doesn't talk on the phone. The car can,
Yeah.
just be focused on what it has to do. So, participating to all of this for me has been really fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, so interesting. And I think that point you just made about kind of the human versus the machine. I've been having lots of conversations recently. We're much more forgiving of human error than of
Yeah,
technology's error. So
that's good.
the bar is higher. I actually
Yeah,
just came back a few days ago from a conference in San Francisco, and they have the Waymo vehicles, so the autonomous vehicles. And even we don't have them in Boston because in Boston we have some bad weather, ice, snow,
yeah,
things that the vehicles are not equipped to handle yet. But even the difference from going to this conference last year to seeing it now, the number of autonomous vehicles on the roads in San Francisco, I would say at least quadrupled, if not more. So to your point, the technology isn't that new, in the recent history, but the application of it and kind of finally reaching prime time
yeah,
has catapulted recently.
yeah. But nothing will stop the technology. These I'm quite sure. Even now with the AI, Gen AI, agentic AI, everybody is saying, "Oh, it's going too fast. We should stop everything." And some, very smart people are saying, "Well, this is going too fast. We have to do something and stop it for a while." We can do this, but for a while. But it will not stop. I think that there is a big challenge for the governments to understand what's happening and trying to be faster in the way that they understand what's happening. Because we need some rules, we need some protection. And if they do nothing, it will go crazy. So this cannot happen, but it will happen. And again, I'm not as optimistic as I used to be a few years ago, but still, I'm optimistic. And I see that, the machine and automation, AI, Gen AI, agentic AI is going to help our life a lot, a real lot. But again, we need to be cautious. We need to understand what's happening. We have to be careful. We cannot give this technology to anyone because you never know what they could do with it. but this is coming for real. This is coming for good. And I think that our life will be better in a few years.
Yeah, yeah. It is such a massive topic, and I understand the sentiment of, oh, we need to slow down, we need to make sure we're doing this right. It just feels
Yeah,
so unrealistic. And you brought up this point earlier that there's the good and the bad side of each kind of technological innovation. If you stop the good guys down, the bad guys are still going, right? So
yes,
you're actually creating bigger
absolutely.
bigger challenges than you intended.
You're right.
Yeah. Francois, I'd love to, talk a little bit about your leadership style. And, you've led through a number of kind of changes and, innovative initiatives. Can you talk a bit about how you describe your style and, what's helped shape that for you?
Okay. So I had some good mentors in my life, like Carlos Ghosn, for example. Uh, but not only. I remember when I used to be at BNP Paribas, the leader, André Levilan, was for me a great leader. Then Daniel Bouton. And my style is different from all of their style. In, in fact, I decided to do very differently. And let me tell you why. I think that, today, the complexity of our world, well, all that we were discussing, all this new technology, nobody knows exactly where it goes, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that's very clear that there is no more one-man show in any company. It does not exist because this complexity is such that one person alone cannot understand everything that is happening. It could have been the case in the 19th century, maybe beginning of the 20th century, but now it's impossible. But still, the guy that I mentioned to you, they were a one-man show kind of leaders. I know everything. If you ask me something, I will give you an answer. So, if you ask my style, many, many times when people ask me something, I say, well, I don't know. I have no clue, which is really kind of different. The boss, the CEO of the company should know all the answers. No. And sometimes, the person that is asking me the question, I tell her or him, well, you know the answer. I don't know the answer. You should know the answer. Or so that's the first thing. The other thing in my management style, Natalie, is the following. I think that, and this is really interesting because the timing is not really for what I'm going to tell you, but I really believe that we need to build companies that are diverse as much as we can, because diversity brings profitability. We need to um, understand that everybody in a company has something to bring. And sometimes it's difficult. I'm going to give you some examples. Um, every time in the companies I've been working with, we had a succession plan and we're going to promote someone. And we had a lady and a gentleman. Everybody would say, oh, she is very good. Yeah, she's extraordinary, but she's not ready. Probably, in 2 or 3 years' time, she will be ready. But the guy is ready. The men are always ready. And of course, not true. It's a bias that we have, but it happens nearly all the time. And I saw that 40 years in my career, 40 years of the same thing. So this made me be a leader defending the quotas. Because with no quota, this is not going to change, or this is going to change in, I don't know, 300 years. And we don't have that time. Again, because Natalie, the best companies are the most diverse company. And I want my company to be the best one. So when, for example, I took Nissan in Brazil, automotive sector, very male dominated sector, in my first line, I had 0 women. So I said, no, it's impossible. I want 50% of women in my first line. And people were laughing at me, but it's impossible. You will not find them. And of course I did. I did find them. And no, they were not only in HR or communication. No, 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 no. It was in technical position, financial director, uh, so because sometimes, say, oh yeah, I have a woman and she will be head of communication because we're women, they can do. No, 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 that's ridiculous. You can do everything, but it's not only about male and female. I am personally gay, and I can be gay, and I can be a gay CEO. But when I was young, Natalie, I couldn't see any gay at this level, so I thought it's not for me. And all my life, I had this syndrome of imposter, say, well, this is not for me. And every time I was promoted, I was thinking, oh my God, they're doing the wrong thing. They're crazy. They don't know what they're doing. You see, it took me time to realize, no, 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 no. I can be a CEO. You, Natalie, can be a CEO. Black lady can be a CEO. We can all be CEOs because we're all good. And then I came to something which is the following, and it's something that I've been using a lot at the end of my career at JLR and now today at TCS. When I'm with people, I look at them and I say, wow, you are beautiful. We are beautiful. We all are beautiful. And I can see the beauty in all of us. And if I can see this beauty, and if you can bring this beauty to the company, if you can be who you are really in the company, then the company is going to be much better. You're going to be happier, but the company is going much better. So this is my management style. I don't like people that look like me. I say, because it's too easy. Of course, we will make quick decision because we think the same, but that's not good. I like to go, with people that say, she is different or he is different. I don't understand why he's saying this or that. I want to discover, I want to know because there is some beauty there that I need to understand so that I make a better decision. So in my style, Natalie, it takes more time to come to decision because to find the consensus, you need to listen to more people and talk. But then, when you make a decision, that's a different decision. And usually that's the best decision you can make for the company.
Yeah. Well, and I think those 2 points that you mentioned seem to go hand in hand very kind of nicely and importantly together because, right, if you need to want to bring in that diversity and recognize everyone for kind of who they are and what they have to bring to the table, that takes a confident leader that recognizes that they don't know everything, that they can't be the expert in all the different areas of the business. And so how do you build that kind of culture and kind of operationally, kind of how do you make decisions in that kind of environment? How do you set people up for success? And I guess a question for you on the diversity side is how do you set kind of the person coming in new that might look different than kind of the average employee or leader? How do you set them up for success? And talk a little bit about how you do that.
Yeah, because, unfortunately, um, it's not enough to say, oh, here everybody is equal, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work like that. So you need to help and promote this diversity. So usually what I do, I give everybody in the company a mentor enabled to be able to help a person, to really understand the culture. I think that, I've been working in many companies and in all of these companies, the culture is different. So the first thing that you need to know is to really, understand the culture and see how you personally is going to fit in this culture. That's very important. So there's a lot of teaching at the beginning. Okay, well, this is the company that. Then I've been working also. That this is not very original, but creating a lot of groups. Which is something I'm going to tell you, good and not good. But let's talk about the good part of it. Okay, so there is in JLR, I think I had 14 or 15 kind of different groups, even for religion, which at the beginning I was not so comfortable with, but in UK they have this. Of course, LGBT community and women in engineering and the parents, and blah, 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 blah. There's so many groups, which I think is good because, when you join the company, you can say, okay, I can go there. This is a safe place where I can share my experience. I can ask questions. But what I don't like, when you are in a community and you're just in the community. For example, at JLR, I was the sponsor for the group in the world for DE&I. And I say, well, don't ask me to just make the meetings with the LGBT community. Of course, this is my community, but I want to talk to all the minorities. This is what I like, because at the end of the day, what I would like is that we don't have these groups anymore because we all belong to the same group. And there is just one group, which is the JLR that I want to build. So, I think that all of this, Natalie, is a journey. So you need to make people feel comfortable. You need to give them mentors. You need to put them into groups where they can be comfortable in order one day to be in a position where nobody questions if you're a woman, if you have kids, if you have to go leave the company earlier because you need to take your kids. Of course, you have to do it. For me, that never has been a problem. I remember one of my colleagues, she came to me, oh, François, I'm so sorry. I said, oh my God, what happened? I'm pregnant. I said, are you sorry to be pregnant? This is one of the nicest things on earth. Can I give you a hug? And, so yeah, all this has to become normal, natural. There's no question. And of course, I was the one also to promote women when they were coming back from having a kid. And people were telling me, but why are you promoting her? I said, but why not? Give me a reason. Why? But she was not there. And yeah, but it's not a disease. She had a baby. That's wonderful. So she's good. I'm going to promote her right now. But, you have to do these crazy things for also people to understand, that things are changing and we need to think this world differently. Also because, Natalie, the new generation is not like me. If they're not happy where they are, they don't stay. For me, I was staying, I was accepting anything. That was another time. So, today you need to also create companies that are nice places for people to be, to work. They need to have, they need to understand what is the company doing. Like the Tata Group. The Tata Group, 66% of all the money we make, 66% is given to communities. This is unique in the world. The Tata family takes only 3%. This is why you will never find any Tata guy in the top rich people of the world, because they just take 3% of the company. And this is great. This is, I think, a lot of people in the company, they say, well, I work for Tata. I don't make as much money as I could do in another company because they give all this back to the communities. They invest in education, invest in sport, in art, in health. So, all this is also very, very important. And again, if you think of the companies of the future, if they don't do this, so I know that it's not what everybody is saying. In US, we hear talking about the masculine energy or the masculine, I don't know what, which has to come back and blah, blah, blah. I don't agree. I don't agree. I think we have to go with the diversity, with the inclusion. We are beautiful. So I know that a lot of people don't think like me, but I don't care.
Yeah. Well, as a leader, you have to stick to your own convictions. And clearly, you've been in organizations that have
Yeah.
both benefited from your philosophy, but
Yeah.
also where you clearly have found the right home in them. And I think a lot of it is really about kind of setting up the right atmosphere, having people that genuinely do fit the culture and that the culture is genuine.
Yeah.
And when you're driving impact, it's hard to argue with that, right? Once you see kind of the role that these efforts are having. I'd love to ask maybe a bit more broadly. Is there something that you're currently focused on at the moment, professionally or otherwise, that you're the most excited about?
Well, I think, today there's a big topic which also it's a little bit the same. It's a little bit like diversity and inclusion, which is sustainability. Um, I started to work on sustainability a few years ago at Renault. Uh, I had no real clue on what sustainability was. And then, I started to work and understand. So the easy thing to understand is the emissions, the CO2 emissions. And I started to understand a little bit of circularity. I started to look at other aspects of sustainability. And then I discovered, I say, oh my God, but there is a way to make money out of sustainability. There's business there that we can do. And what I like is that it's business, it's innovation, it's technology for a better world, for a better planet. Because again, Natalie, well, as far as I know, there is no planet B. We're not ready to go to Mars or to the moon, but we're not. So there is no plan B. So we need to make this planet the solution. And I think that, for me today, it's very clear that sustainability is here to help make business, profitable business, and make the earth, which is our A, viable. So, it took me time to understand that there is business there. Because at the beginning, I was thinking, oh, okay, so I don't have a car anymore. I can't take a plane anymore. I can't, and my life is going to be miserable if I want to be sustainable. And now I understood that it's not that. It's not that. It's not that. But again, when I remember my first years at Alliance Ventures, looking at technologies, et cetera, you do exactly the same for sustainability. So now we are launching with my new company here in Brazil, Sustainaton, that we are asking, young people to come with creative solution, sustainable solutions, the industry, for the agribusiness, because in Brazil, agribusiness is very big. It's 25% of the GDP of the country, et cetera, et cetera. So, the same process of innovation and technology can apply to sustainability. So today, that's one of my obsession, I would say.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm thinking back to a few conversations I've had with other podcast guests, and just that are in kind of sustainability fields, but in very different places, right? So one is working with nonprofits around food waste and making sure that instead of
Yeah.
things going into the trash, they're getting donated to nonprofits who can use it. Another was Laurent Caneva was innovating kind of food management practices like within an enterprise. And so it is really interesting, like this topic of sustainability can just go in so many different places. And a lot of it really is fueled by technology these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So this is fascinating. We're going to have the COP 30 in Brazil, in Belém, which is in a city in the Amazon region. I'll go there. I hope to see different kind of ideas or way of thinking. Uh, I'm curious. I don't know, to tell you the truth, but I hope that this COP is going to be really different because it's in the Amazon region, because the city of Belém is a very nice place, very inspiring, I think, for this kind of reflections. And let's see what's gonna happen. But I'm looking forward to great things there.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Uh, I'd love to hear a little bit more about you and maybe going a little bit further back. So we've talked a little bit about your career, but who were you as a child? Did you always think or know you'd be moving into kind of big leadership roles like this? Tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Wow, no, when I used to be a kid, I didn't know, that what I would do. Um, so, but what I remember very, very well is that, and I was very lucky, very, very lucky. I had a lot of people loving me when I was a kid, and mainly women. So, of course, my mom. like a lot of kids, but I have, because my mom is still with us, an amazing relationship with her. And she taught me, what is really unconditional love, which is something very important when you become a manager. Loving people is something, love is not a word that we use in the corporate world. Yeah, we say we love our customers. But I love my colleagues. I love my employees. And very often I tell people, I love you. Um, and that comes from my mom, really, really clearly. Then my grandmother, she taught me, values, what is good and what is bad. She was a very simple person. Went to school at 12 years old, I think. Then she had to work. But she told me, with her, I knew exactly what was good or not good. And that's very important also when you become a leader, because, you have values. I have very strong values. And I never, sometimes in Brazil, like in other countries, there is a lot of corruption. I've been exposed to corruption all my professional life. I never, ever accepted one thing because of my grandma. But that was so clear with me. Then there was a third one, which my sister. My sister was my friend. Someone you can talk. You will not be judged. You can share everything. So when you're a leader, this is something that you need. I think, if I take the case of Carlos Ghosn, he had no friend. He had nobody to be a mirror to tell him, Carlos, you're getting crazy. So that's very important for me. I always had my sister as a real mirror telling me, this is not good. You're becoming crazy. Come back on earth. Because, sometimes when you become a CEO, you think that, oh, wow, I am so great. We're not. We're not. Nobody's great. We are not. We're beautiful, but we're not great. So that was the third person. And then I have one guru, as we say in Brazil. So she's a lady. She's helping me, looking at, what are we doing here? And helping me a lot on social projects that we are sponsoring, that I've been doing all my life in all the companies that I've been working with. I created social um, um, uh, responsibility institutions to help people that are poor in the poor communities. Here in Brazil, you have a lot of things to do. And she was a kind of a guide, a spiritual guide, helping me. And in my career, it also helped me always, thinking, okay, we need to give everybody a second chance, this kind of thing. So, all of this made who I became today. So you see, it's very interesting, because when I think of that, a lot of women helped me to become the man that I became. And I think that this is great. And of course, when I say that to my dad, he said, well, but what about me? I said, no, Dad, you've been very important. That's not the point. But really, I became who I am today because of women. That's for sure.
Yeah. I love that example, and all the different pieces that you've taken from different people. I think, as a child, for example, we often don't appreciate at the time the impact people are having on us, and unless you have that self-awareness, the way that sounds like you do, to really reflect on it and think back and kind of connect the dots, it's really, I think, a reminder of what kind of a role model we can be for people, whether it's our own children or just the community around us, and how much kids learn through osmosis just by living our values and living as a
Yeah.
good person and showing emotion and all the things that you just mentioned, and the ripple effect that that has. So thinking about, your leadership and the journey that you've come on, if you were sitting in a room right now with a younger version of yourself in your first leadership role, what advice would you give to yourself?
Oh my God. This is a difficult question. Uh, well, I think that I would tell this younger François to be brave, to be braver, not to be afraid. It took me time, to be myself, to be able to say, okay, I'm gay. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. These are my values. I was a little bit shy. It took me too long. So, I would tell this young François, be brave. Don't be afraid. Live by your values. Um, this is probably the most important thing that you can do. And don't be afraid of the judgments of the others. Doesn't matter if they like you. I wanted to be liked when I was younger because I was different. It was not cool for me to be different. And now I love to be different. I love to be myself because I really think that I am beautiful, as you are beautiful, as everybody's beautiful. It's not that I'm the only beautiful. No, no, no. But I am as beautiful as you are. And this is not what I was thinking, when I was younger. I thought that I was really ugly. And I would tell this François, no, no, no. You are as beautiful as all the others. You have your contribution to give to the world. So give your contribution. Don't be afraid. And, accelerate. This is what this is probably what I would tell him.
I love that. I love that. I think that's such a powerful note to end on. I think there's something very universal about that. And I think no matter how confident someone is, usually they're not as confident as they might come across. And so having that kind of internal courage is something that I think any of us as leaders can benefit from, that kind of reminder. So François, this has been such a rich and inspiring conversation. And before we wrap up, what's the best way for listeners to either, follow your work or connect with you?
Well, I think that they can easily connect with me on LinkedIn, which is the easiest way to find me. And I always answer. So don't hesitate. We can talk.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. This has really been a fantastic conversation.
Thank you so much, Natalie, for your time. I enjoyed the discussion very much. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you too to everybody listening. I know I loved hearing so much of what François shared with us, the insights, the encouragement, the different examples from his career. And so if today gave you valuable insights, and I'm sure it did, please share this episode with someone. We know that sharing this kind of knowledge and information helps all of us grow as leaders and helps us drive successful transformation in our organizations. So thank you again, François. And this has been another wonderful conversation on Shift and Thrive. See you all next time. That's a wrap for this week's episode. For show notes and more, visit shiftandthrivepodcast.com. A special thank you to our sponsor, Magnitude Consulting, bringing you the thinking power of a growth consultancy and the getting it done power of a full-service marketing agency to help B2B companies fuel their growth. For more information on Magnitude and to get your complimentary transformation readiness assessment, visit magnitudeconsulting.com/getready. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.